Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1135. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro, Valentino. Today, we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley, Podcastro Valley Mont, I should say. And we are going to bring you the segment called Ain't Life Grand?
Mike's Daily Podcast,
where we look at an interesting story that has to do with the writer. Mostly writers' stories aren't interesting, even though they're super smart.
Mike's Daily Podcast,
because they can put pen to paper, which is something that I have a hard time doing. I was walking through a field yesterday with the cows mooing, and I heard my dog say, "Let's go chase them." And I said, "But if we do that, we'll get to be erased by them because they are rather big and they'll stomp on us."
Mike's Daily Podcast.
This sounds like a weird dream I had. I did have a weird dream where I went to Hawaii to interview for a radio job.
Mike's
and then I ended up
Daily
showing up late.
Podcast.
And they got mad at me and they said, "No, we will not hire someone who's late," which may speak to some issues I have with tardiness. I don't know, maybe I should talk to Scott Baio about that. Scott Baio showing up at the first night of the Republican convention. Have you heard yet the a couple of radio people and television people have put together little comparisons between Melania's speech and Michelani. They've been merged together. Melania Trump and Michelle Obama. The speech was so exact in spots that you could just line them right up. It is so weird. Check it out. It's all over the internet. I understand that the mom, the mourning mom, the grieving mom from the whole Benghazi thing, when she got up and talked about Hillary and said she lied to us, she put Hillary in prison and all that. What? And then I'd like to talk about something else that went on at BigotCon. By the way, is that guy that does the Villages? What was his name? The guy that put on the Academy Awards. Is he putting this thing on too? Because it's so overproduced with the big smoke and everything. Big WrestleMania type situation. Look who just walked in.
Hello, my commander, it's Madame Rootabega. I have wrestled before.
Wonderful. I could see that because you've got rather large arms. I think you could take anyone down.
My commander, I will not be upstaged by Trump or anyone. Don't mess with me.
Ooh. There was a interesting exchange I heard on a podcast. Someone was interviewing the New York Times writer Jane Mayer, who interviewed the writer of The Art of the Deal and said that a couple of things about Trump that now we're like, what, really? Oh, yeah, I knew that. But we'll go into that a little bit later in the segment Ain't Life Grand. But one interesting thing she said, oh, look who else just walked in, was that she had been trying to get a hold of Hillary and ask her some questions about it. And she said it was very difficult to get a hold of Hillary or talk to her, whereas Trump returned her calls immediately, and Trump spoke to her immediately, which lends itself to this feeling I'm getting about Hillary, and many people do, that she's just so secretive and so non-transparent. Non-transparency may be an issue in the future. People as a whole don't like that much. And one other thing I was thinking about was that, you remember back in the 80s, and Bruce Springsteen was really huge with his Born in the USA song and all that. And then I remember one of the big selling points of Bruce Springsteen was he talks at his concerts. He has a little story in front of all of his songs that he tells about, like, burning his draft card and stuff like that. And that was such a big selling point back then about, an artist a performer, a musician, a rock star will talk about something and then go into his songs. And you think nowadays, nobody wants that. They just want to party. They just want to dance. Who needs the talking? Most musicians have really nothing to say anyway, and they're kind of like, yeah, smoke pot, it's fun. And that's about it. The wonderful... Who else just walked in? Nah, we won't talk to them. Mike'sDailyPodcast.com is a wonderful website you can go to click on that Amazon and help out the show. Click on the Amazon link. I have some friends that are registered on Amazon for wedding gifts. And I was looking through all the gifts they have in their registry, and I'm like, they will never use this stuff. It will be put in a storage unit and never used. And there is also the link to PayPal if you'd like to help out. You'll get a special greeting from all the Cafe Anyway characters like these two guys I haven't introduced yet.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant, also known as Donald Trump's son.
And I'm Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we've been enjoying the Republican convention, even though we can't stand Trump there.
Yeah, we can't stand him. Do you know that?
How can you be enjoying it if you don't? It's all about Trump. It's all about hating Hillary. Mitt Romney's former campaign manager said that it's all about, since not everyone can unify behind Trump, they can unify about the fact they don't want Hillary. So that's why the whole Benghazi stuff with Hillary, that's why it's all Hillary, Hillary all the time. Pillary Hillary is what it should be called. So let's get to this segment, Ain't Life Grand.
Ain't life grand.
And then, oh, I didn't do the podcast picture.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Today's podcast picture is of San Leandro Marina, where I went to and saw people playing Pokemon Go constantly. They were non-stop with the Pokemon Go.
Pikachu!
Going, oh, look at that, it's a Pikachu.
Pikachu!
And all that. So that's a nice sunset picture, San Leandro Marina, where like nobody ever goes. It's such a nice place. It's kind of romantic. Well, it could use a little bit of restoration. There's some parts that have fallen into disrepair. So apparently there's big plans to change it and make it look nice. But speaking of putting lipstick on a pig, that's exactly what it was referred to, or for Mr. Trump's book. The writer of that, Tony Schwartz, said that writing The Art of the Deal was all about that, about making Trump look better than he is. According to Salon, who broke it down, they said Trump doesn't read. That's what they discovered from this article that who I talked about earlier, Jane Mayer of The New Yorker, actually profiled and said that Schwartz said, I seriously doubt Trump has ever read a book straight through in his adult life. He's got a short attention span. And during the 18 months he spent with Trump, he said he never saw a book on Trump's desk or elsewhere in his office or his apartment. Also, Schwartz had to coin the term truthful hyperbole in order to put on an acceptable face on Trump's compulsive lying. He said he lied strategically. He had a complete lack of conscience about it. And when confronted, Trump would often double down, repeat himself, and grow belligerent, which we've seen that on the campaign trail, especially pre this campaign trail when he was campaigning 4 years ago and saying that Obama was not a citizen. And even when Obama produced the papers that showed his birth certificate showed that he is in fact a citizen, he's like, well, we're looking into that. Trump agreed to Schwartz's relatively hefty advance royalties terms immediately. Schwartz demanded half the $500,000 in advance as well as half the royalties in order for him to accept the ghostwriter position. And Trump, despite having a reputation as a tough negotiator, agreed on the spot. And Trump had no hand in writing The Art of the Deal, but argues the opposite. When Mayer spoke to Trump, he said, no, I wrote the thing. This guy didn't write anything. And even though Howard Karnitsky, who heads Random House, or who headed Random House at the time of the book's publishing, said, Trump didn't even write a postcard for us. And finally, this is interesting, Trump is not a family man, despite his portrayal as a family man in The Art of the Deal. Schwartz revealed that, as far as he could tell, Trump spent very little time with his family and had no close friends. Despite what Trump Jr. was saying last night at the convention, saying, or no, it was his daughter that was up there that was saying that he wrote little notes to me on my postcard, or my report card. Postcards, report cards, it's all there. Postcards from paradise. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Oh, during his time shadowing Trump, by the way, the real estate mogul began an affair with Marla Maples, and that would become his second wife. And now we have Melania. Don't say Melanie, it's Melania, because it's melodious. Next show, we're going to... Melodious. Metronome? Let's end the show. Next show, it's going to be Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer. And that will be fun.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is